Good evening and welcome to the Planning Board meeting of Tuesday, March 19, 2024. The meetings are on Milford TV and are televised. With that, I'll open the meeting and entertain a motion to accept the meeting minutes from the March 5th, 2024 meeting.
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Motion by Babe to accept the meeting minutes. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Joe. Any further discussion? Hearing not, all those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
And I'll abstain.
Yep, unanimous at 4-3, I'm sorry, with one abstention. You can vote, by the way, you do.
Yeah, no,
That's fine.
I knew you had the vote, so.
Just to let you know.
Yes, thank you.
I think we have 7:02, so I will open the public hearing for Route 85 Realty Corporation for the special permit approval regarding construction of the 191,700 square foot wholesale facility and associated off-street parking on 0 East Main Street. We have in our packet requests from the applicant, and also this is partly us too, as we needed to get the traffic study and traffic consultant on board, have them signed up, and then review the traffic plan that was submitted. So we actually needed more time for them to go through that. So the applicant has sent a letter requesting a continuation until the meeting of April 16th, 2024. So I will entertain a motion that we continue the meeting until April 16th, 2024.
A motion.
We have to tell Attorney Antonellis that he's about 20 years behind time, but that's okay.
Yep. I'll second that.
His date's 2004, that's why I'm
Well, the
saying.
first one, yeah.
Motion by Chris, seconded by Babe to continue the meeting until April 16th, 2024. I assume it'll be at the same time, 7:02 PM.
Actually, it'll be later, but
Oh, we have others?
yeah, you have the
The
5 zoning hearings,
zoning hearings?
but they'll be quick.
Okay.
Anyway,
Well, whenever the meeting gets published, it
On the
will be,
16th.
will be on the 16th.
yep.
Any further discussion? Hearing not, all those in favor of continuing until April 16th will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous at 4. Ps, we have none. Preliminary site plan for Town Park, Milford Parks Department. You guys want to come up?
Good evening. My name is Dan Saley. I'm engineer with CHA Consulting. Myself and Mike Moonen have been working as the engineers on this project. First thing, if you guys want, I can just go over a summary of the first project, and we do questions if you guys have any afterwards, and we can answer them.
Yep.
All right, so it's pretty much the overview of the concept that we'd like to show you today. We have 2 dedicated tennis courts, a dedicated pickleball court, which has 4 courts in it. There's going to be bench seating in the center for both pickleball and tennis. There's going to be sports lighting, must-go lighting in both all these courts, as well as the basketball courts as well. In the overview of the project, we're looking at doing a new 8-foot wide walkway throughout the entire area, in the area here. This little gym area here is going to be an outdoor workout by pull-up bars and some gym equipment as well. In the restroom building here, it's going to be a renovation of the existing building. I thought there was a question there. We're going to use the existing sewer. This is one of the questions that you guys have gave us. For some work going through here, these are probably going to be at alternates. We're looking to add some shade structures adjacent to the field, as well as kind of have a concrete pavement area. This area is kind of a lack of ADA seating. It's hard to get down there, down the steps, so we might have an add alternate for increased ADA seating for the field on that side. Last, we're going to look to do a little expanded section for the bandstand area. And other than that, I can open up for questions if you guys have any.
What I'll do, because I see there's people in the audience here, I'll ask for questions, comments from the board, and then I'll open it up to the public after that. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions from board members.
I got a question on the pathways. Are they going to be lit?
Pathways will be lit, yes.
Anything else, babe?
No, right now.
Joe, you have anything?
I got a couple.
Yep, go ahead.
So this is option two. What was option one? What changed?
We had, I believe we have gotten rid of the parking area that was located in this section over here. So now it's a more, we have a lot of more trees, benches, and a walkway throughout the whole park now.
Okay. Has anybody reached out to the youth organizations to see what the needs are for the town? Like, I know we're short on soccer fields, baseball fields, et cetera.
Right, so for the permitting side, which we're in charge of, for the town, whatever, people want to use the courts or whatever, baseball fields, everything, we write the permits for it. So the need for basketball courts has been huge as far as different leagues. So years ago, there were, I started 23 years ago, I think there was, one league pretty much since then, and now we're up to like 3 leagues that are looking to use that same court. So that was in part of the plan, working with the commission to add a second court there. Also with a court that we're proposing in the other part of this project. But that was pretty much the plan for those. The tennis, with 5 courts, how it was originally, those courts weren't being used. Yes, they were in some rough conditions, but even when we had the nets up, the kids were taking the nets down, using it for soccer on a daily basis. So with this second court, it also gives that option of futsal that they're able to play. Street hockey will also be able to play, which the nets for many years have been taken down and been used for street hockey also. So it's adding that side of the recreation. So we decided that the 2 courts would be plenty for Town Park, having the 5 up at, there's actually 6, or 5 that are being used right now at the high school. And then the pickleball was just something that I've been contacted multiple times by residents, non-residents, just asking about, is there plans for pickleball? A few years back, we did, a pickleball tournament, actually for Linda Zakili up at the high school. We did some temporary lines and stuff, and it was, a big hit. I think through COVID, it became even bigger. I know the concerns for the pickleball is the noise. Most of these noise stories that you're hearing on the news and stuff are for many pickle courts. We have 4 pickle courts in this. That would be a maximum of 16 people playing at once. The courts that you're reading about in all these different towns that are having noise problems, it's 16 courts, 12 courts, 32 courts, in a, one area. So that's excessive for the noise and stuff. At town meeting, we did discuss possibly putting up some sort of acoustic border around the bottom, the barrier around the bottom section of the fence, about 3 feet high, which is about the height of the net, and that would help absorb some of the sound. But it wasn't in the initial plan. It was more if it became an issue. And as far as the fields, we're not doing anything with the softball field. We're not doing anything with the baseball field at this time. There'll be some parks things that we do to the dugouts of the softball. The roofing, the shingles have been ripped off. We're going to update all that. There will be some minor work done to the bleacher area where some of the concrete has, cracked, and while they're doing the walkways, they're going to fix up some of the steps and stuff.
Have you considered like the Fino Field annex, or maybe those areas down there where there's not as many people surrounding the park?
For
Or the pickleball?
No, Not for down the annex. The annex we use for Pop Warner right now.
Okay.
Pop Warner is used down there. We have different soccer groups that use that. And we also have a cricket league that wants to start using that for cricket. So it's one of those fields that hasn't been used in the past, and we want to use it more. So we've measured out a soccer field, a Pop Warner football field, and that's all, stuff that we have planned for down there.
So the walkways are going to be 8 feet. Why do they need to be that wide?
Basically we bring our trucks in there a lot when there's no place on the streets to park safely. So when we go to mow and maintain the fields, we'll drive our trucks right in on the pathways. And as they are right now, when our trucks go in, they're a lot wider than those walkways, and we're leaving the ruts on the sides. So, and that's a daily thing that we're going into that park. So, and you can see the wear and tear if you go out there now, just seeing. No matter what we do to correct that, fixing it, filling it, seeding it, it's going to continue to happen. And it's one of those things that we can't do on a daily basis. We don't have the time to, every time we drive in there, fix what we drove, and, every week, fix what we've already run down. So to have the 8-foot walkway, we have them at Plains Park. It works really well when we have to get our trucks out on there. And it's amazing when, it sounds like it's big, but it really doesn't appear. If you've been down Plains Park, those don't seem like they're 8 feet. When we had the one side done over, I thought they were like 5 or 6, and when we measured it out edge to edge, it was 8 feet. So that's a primary, but even so with the walkways and stuff, the kids use those walkways. For Stacy School uses them, Memorial School uses them, and it adds that little bit more space, for their gym classes and stuff when they're going out there and whatever they may use it for. I know they use it for the Stacy track team, uses some of those walkways and stuff for running. It just adds that added space, I think, that's important for, the use that park does get.
Just seems to be taking away a lot of green space. But that's just my opinion.
Joe, I worked there myself, doing
Yeah.
a lot of maintenance work when I had the company, and they desperately need to make it. They just beat up the grass and beat up the edges of the. So you're either beating up the grass or you're beating up the edges of the asphalt. So it's a good move.
And the grass will grow over and into that. That's what happened in areas at Plains Park where it wasn't traveled a lot. The grass really kind of starts to creep over the pavement, which still works out. It doesn't look like as much pavement, but it still gives them a sturdy surface to ride on. So that's one of the other reasons it tends not to look so wide.
Did you guys do any surveys or anything? Has there been any participation? Did you have any meetings?
Yeah, so we've had multiple meetings since town meeting. So originally, we did the conceptual plan at town meeting. It was voted 95 to 25 to move forward with it at town meeting, the plan.
Was it that high?
Yeah.
That was something like 60-40 or something.
No, it was
okay.
95-25 by the end. I
Okay.
mean, there was a couple of things, there was like 3 different votes that went on. I think the first 2 votes were for some amendments, and there were some other things put in. But at the town meeting, the moderator asked that part of the decision was to ask the commission to meet with residents that may have concerns, which we have, and most of them are here tonight, that they've been coming to our meetings for the last few months to discuss different things. And, part of it was that parking lot that we had proposed at the beginning, and the commission decided to move forward with this plan.
Well, since we're talking about impervious pavement, any consideration of fixing the Memorial School situation with the pickup and drop-off?
Yeah, so actually, I was just speaking to that. I spoke to the superintendent and the principal at Memorial about this. because I wanted to see if they wanted to do it now. But unfortunately, our walkway in front of their playground is narrow, and that's where the wear is. The back parking lot that's not being done is already 10 feet wide. So that starts up at the
Right.
walkway and comes down to Stacy.
That would be perfect.
Right, so what I proposed to them as a possibility, and it was just a informal discussion, it wasn't anything planned, for them to come down up near the Legend and come down the parking lot on this side and follow it and come up this way
Yeah,
and fill the cars in there, drop off right there at the playground, and then exit out at the bus loop.
yeah.
That would enable the buses to use the bus loop instead of
Correct.
where they are now at the cafeteria.
That would fix the safety issue down there.
And so we had discussions about that, and that was part of, you know, what I sort of mapped it out with Craig Consigli, and we talked about it. I talked to Elisa Burns about it. And
Excellent.
like I said, it was informal. It wasn't any final, like, this is the way we're going to do it, but at least there is a set plan.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that I would expect to be done through the school system, but that we should be, making sure that we're not doing something that is then going to, you know, get ripped up for them to, you know, we need to be working together, obviously, to make sure that we're making accommodations for anything that they might need to do in the
That would be
future.
a separate site plan at some later
Yes.
date.
Yes.
So I got you.
Chris?
Yeah, thanks for answering the questions on the sewer, the lighting. You know, one of the other questions I had, and I know we're only preliminary, but, you know, the tennis courts and just the proximity to Congress Street and just offsets, and I wasn't sure if there's any particular offsets that we have to worry about. You know, as the fencing's getting closer to the sidewalk, so just
So
something to consider.
Yeah, so it appears that way. The courts are going to be a little bit bigger, but the footprint itself we're sticking to pretty much the footprint of the park as it was before.
Right, yeah.
So, you know, I'm thinking that fencing's going to be pretty close to the same distance.
That fence, the fencing for the courts was a good, I want to say 30 feet from the sidewalk, wasn't it?
Not on this corner. On this corner, it was probably 2 mower lengths, 2 mower
It's
widths.
just over, I'm thinking over here, is that?
The only one that would be closer
one's
is
down
that
here.
one right there.
Right.
That one's closer. The other one looks like it's almost in the exact same
Yeah,
location.
that one was
Yeah.
like two widths, 2 mower widths, like so.
Really?
Yeah, like almost 12
The one
feet.
up at the corner was close, but then it pushed because that angle was pretty severe. So that one's closer. The one that's in front of the pickleball court towards Congress Street is closer than the old one used to be, but I don't think it's any closer than what the other court used to be to Congress Street.
Right, and that, I mean, with the final plan, we have the actual, you know,
Yeah.
measurements and stuff, but
That's going to be just chain link fence, right?
yes.
Not with, so, because this other one's going to have the boards,
That
right?
has boards.
Yeah.
The lower
So-
section's boards, yeah.
The reason I ask, Chris, is from a setback perspective,
Mm-hmm.
if you, with the chain link, it's not really hurting it.
Right, it's like putting a chain link fence on your property line.
Yeah, but if they were gonna put, like, even if they talked about the pickleboard, like although that's short enough.
Well, you know,
Anyway,
there is no zoning for it anyways for us, and then there's also, I mean,
Just a site.
in fact, that chain link fence, if there was, wouldn't meet because that I'm sure is going to be at least 10-foot high fence.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask them to plan it that way, because for the maintenance purpose, I don't wanna have to push mow or weed whack that section. We wanna be able to get our mowers through it.
Yep.
So that's gonna be part of it also. The whole maintenance side of it is important to me. You know, at the high school, when some things were done up there, you know, some of those islands are really tough now.
Is there sidewalk on that side?
Of
Yes.
Congress Street?
Yes, that whole road.
Yeah, that whole-
Both sides.
And that's why I was just kind of curious, just from, concrete
Walnut's the
sidewalk.
only sidewalk, there isn't one.
Yeah.
No, Walnut.
So, yeah, just in consideration there, thanks, you know, addressing the noise. And I know at town meeting, there was a question just about the the naming of the current court and transitioning over to the new courts. Again, it's less on the planning board, but just want to raise it.
No, there's,
that
well,
as
no,
we
there's
had talked
actually
about it.
more, there is more to do. It's not the naming
Yeah.
of the court. There's actually a monument out there right now to Chili Frabata.
Right. So just,
And what, well, and before they answer that, because my comment in talking about, and I know there's leagues there, Town Park to me was never about open space. It was about active usage. And I guess I'm wondering what the advantage of taking out a basketball court that's in relatively good shape is, as opposed to just leaving it there. If you have leagues going on at the other location, somebody just wants to show up and play ball, why don't we let them do that? Which also would then alleviate the second question, which is the Frabata Memorial, which could just stay where it is right now at that court. It just seems to me that it's a better, to me, for what Town Park is. I mean, that isn't the place that I go for open space. It's where I go to do other things. And if I have the ability to leave a basketball court in, short money, why wouldn't I want to do that? So that's...
Well, the consideration before we came up with this plan, I contacted Cindy Frabata, and I did speak to her about it. And I let her know that the commission had talked about rededicating it, her father's monument, and putting that on the Congress Street side in front of those courts. That would be seen more. So right now, the way it is, unless you know that monument's there, you wouldn't see that from the road. And that was part of the thought. And and then with the whole parking lot, but the basketball. So if we have one league going, the second basketball court can still be used on that court. So it's not like we're going to have two leagues going at once. It was more like having a league on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and having a league on a Tuesday, Thursday. So there's going to be a court available. The basketball is not going to dominate it, although I think Chile would love that it was dominating it. But the league would only take the one.
Yeah, I
court,
mean,
right?
I guess regardless of that, I'm saying to myself, why do I want to get rid of the court? I don't think you're doing that much grading out there, so it's not because of grading. It's like, why wouldn't we just leave a court there? If it's used, it's used. If it's not, it's an area that you don't have to maintain with grass or anything, and why wouldn't we do that? I guess that's one comment. My only other comment, too, is in terms of that walking path in that area around there, I'd rather see that walking path around to the Walnut Street side and around the bandstand, because you've got it going where if you do have the bandstand going on and you have an event, that walking path is right through the middle of where everybody's seating. Well, why would we want to do that?
So we discussed this with the architect, and he made a mistake. We had already discussed it. So instead of coming up this far, this is going to run more this way in the final plan. Okay, so right now for the band concerts, this area here is used higher. Back here near the fence, very rarely, but in some cases, we have some bigger bands that space does fill up. But this would run more like this, almost with the fencing of the softball field. So it will open up this area, just so that's clear. I mean, we did talk about that with Mike, who's not here tonight, and I mentioned it to Dan tonight, because Dan wasn't in that conversation, so. But that is gonna be a change on that respect.
Okay. Well, I think the basketball court to me is something that you should consider in terms of leaving that or not, as opposed to doing that work. With that, I'll open it. Yep,
One more
you want
question.
All right.
Yeah, more a question for Scott back there. Between 11 and 9, I know you did a underground filtration system. What is proposed? Just more of a basic question. It's not going to be disrupted.
No.
No, they're aware it's there.
Yeah. Thank you.
They don't work around.
Joe, I got just,
Yep, go ahead, babe.
one thing, let me, we were talking about for the bus, for the drop-off. And they said that'd be a different site, another site plan. I realize it might be a different site plan, but when we're designing this, let's get together and design it so it's here and done in this time, or at least they can do it with the design. Let's incorporate both of these things at the same time. Let's not do one and then do one after that. It's foolish.
So it's already been discussed with the architect. So it was actually suggested by Mike Moonen, the architect that I've been working with fully. And he basically said how they've done it in the past, and you can speak to this, Dan, if you're familiar with it, but if they have the one job going out for bid, the person who bids on that can also have that option to bid on that one. So we would be doing them simultaneously, and that's the plan. The money has to be separate because the CBDG doesn't cover this. This is through appropriation and the ARPA funds. So that's the one thing that I just wanted to make that clear.
I understand, but
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah, that is the
to
plan.
have two separate things
Yep.
and the design is foolish.
So there have been meetings with the school department, and,
Informal.
okay. I think before it comes back to the planning board for
Yep.
formal approval, you're going to want to have formal meetings with the school department
Yeah,
so
so
that,
they're going to benefit from it, from the whole park
Yeah.
standpoint, because they use those courts. They play pickleball on the tennis. They play street hockey on the tennis. They play basketball. They play tennis. So they're going to benefit from it, and the exercise unit, they're going to, benefit from that.
So I think Liz's
Yeah, no, I
point
don't,
was
yeah,
that you need to
I
make
think.
sure you formally.
We just want to make sure that, the walkways, I mean, the only thing that's really going to get impacted is the
Right.
walkways, is to make sure that the school department doesn't come back with a busway that overruns the walkways that you guys just put in. Let's just, make sure that doesn't happen. But I don't, certainly, I don't think there's any question about,
I
for
think,
years,
yeah, the
for
purpose of
years,
it.
the schools have been using town park.
The
as-
purpose was to get the bus loop to be used as a bus loop.
Yep.
Yeah.
The
Try to
thing-
promote that.
Yeah, that would be
The
good.
thing is, if the design's there, even if they don't do it, but at least they can go to the finance committee and possibly look for the money to do it. I mean, it's putting it out like an eyedropper, and I understand why, but at least you have a design to do something.
Ferrari doing a set of as-built plans, or preliminary plans. Yep.
yeah, it's really the same thing as Pheno Pool. If we knew what we were doing with the stormwater stuff a little bit sooner, just to have it more formally
Yep.
shown. So I think I think it's awesome that you've been in informal discussions with the school. I just think by the time you come back for site plan review, proper, as Larry would say, you want to have had formal meetings with the school.
Yeah, which is why I suggested 2 site plans, not design the thing as
Right.
Babe is suggesting. You design it, for the overall project or both situations, but you've got 2 totally separate funding sources,
Approvals.
2 totally separate sets of approvals.
Yes.
You got all this other stuff going on. As long as the original overall design accommodates both, you can get what you need done now with the site plan for this, and then when you're ready to do the other one, you'll have a separate site plan for that. But they should still work together because theoretically, the original design included both, which is what Babe was talking about. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Moving right along.
No other questions?
Anyone from the audience that would like to speak? Name and address, please, for the record.
Mary Frances Best, 11 Robin Road. Chairman Calzone, I agree with you 100% about the basketball court. I go by there every day, almost every day, and I see people playing on that court. And I really hate to see it taken down. I think it's important for the young people in this town to have that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Wheelock? Name and address, Jamie?
Jamie Wheelock, 1 Conniff Ave. Mr. Marias, thank you for asking all those really relevant questions and raising the subject of the drop-off pickup loop, which isn't part of this plan and absolutely needs to have way more work gone into it, but that's not what we're here for tonight. But it is amazing to do this much work on this project and ignore a project that we know is happening. I'd like to say, why is there no lighting at the Pearl Street courts? The Pearl Street courts will end up being,
We'll talk about the Pearl Street courts when
that's
we get to
actually part
Pearl
of this
Street.
project.
No, it's
Now,
not.
well, there's a separate hearing after this one, so
You
this
need
is
to
just about
wait a
this.
few minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
If
great.
you'd read the agenda, you'd see that.
Mr. Kelly Jones?
Mhm.
Evelyn Von Temple?
But I'm not sure if Mr.
No,
Wheelock's
I can keep
done.
going. If-
Yeah, let Mr. Wheelock,
Talk about
that was,
Pearl
yeah,
Street.
yeah,
Until
Pearl
the
Street's,
right moment, I want
Yep.
to talk about Pearl Street right now. The idea of expanding 100% of the paths in that park to 8 feet wide so that they can be automobile roads is really crazy. I spent a lot of time in that park. There is minimal damage to the trail network, the footpath network in that park, beyond the Walnut Street path where the truck does drive up a lot from Walnut Street to, I guess it's a softball court. There is some damage there, but the entire park is not greatly impacted by the vehicles that are using that. And it's a shame to turn a pedestrian walkway into an automobile road. The planned benches in between the two tennis courts are like the least preferred place to watch a game of tennis. And for the spectators to watch back on the baseline. The original seating along the sides of the tennis courts are still visible when you go to Town Park, so that you can stand parallel with the tennis courts and watch the stuff going like that. And I do realize that tennis stadiums, people do sit behind the baseline and stuff, but historically and normally, it's really normal to sit along the length of the tennis court.
not to speak for the park department, but I think those are probably more waiting seats than watching seats.
Right.
I played tennis almost all my life, and
Yeah.
very few times did I
That little-
actually sit and wait.
That little alley detail is really curious, if you ask me. Whatever. I hope that there will be tennis court benches parallel with the court. And it's unclear where the futsal court will be. This sport is already quite popular and growing. A standalone futsal court would be very appropriate at the park. Can you point out where the futsal is?
On that, see that, going the opposite way of basketball.
All right, the futsal guys are going to want to futsal almost as much as the basketball guys are going to want a basketball. So there's going to be massive conflict.
So-
This is kind of nice that you're talking about.
That's for the administration to figure out as far as how we're going to permit it and use.
All right, I'm just drawing your attention to the fact that,
That we've looked into
We
it.
do appreciate that.
good. Is there a plan for replacement and new trees in the park? The shade structures that you guys have drawn there will be redundant if a quality planting is arranged for.
Would you like me to answer? So I'm working with Chucky Renault, our tree warden, and there is a plan for the trees. There's not a set plan right now, but in the estimation, speaking with Chucky, there's going to be 20 to 30 trees planted. And he's looking at the species to see which would be best for this park. And
I think we already know. They're the trees that have been there very happily for 100 years.
there became safety issues around the school, and they had to be removed. So.
All right, that's all I want to say about Town Park. Please keep the original freestanding basketball court that is used 12 months a year, I kid you not, till the lights go off.
Ms. Bontempo, yep. Yep, Ms. Bontempo, yep.
I have to go there?
No, you can stay there.
Whatever you want.
I want you to come up and sit.
Oh, that's because the Bruins are playing tonight. Okay,
Yeah, you need to move it right along.
Sure.
I got a bad knee. Excuse me. Mr. Marias, no,
Moraeus. It's pronounced Moraeus. Calagione. Calagione. The E in Italian is an A. Thank you. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
If I could answer the last speaker about the trees. Can I just, all right. All right. This park, just bear with me, just a little history. As they all know, this park was purchased by the town in 1863. Approximately 15 acres at a price of $10,000. It's not really a big space when you see everything that's in there. Talking about a baseball field, a soccer field, the first Milford High School, Memorial School, opened in 1959. All right, the Pavilion, 1994. Okay. I want to thank the Parks Department, the commissioners, for either leaving on Walnut Street side basketball court or a passive picnic area, because there is really no green space there. In the whole park, there's no really green space. And it's become really the gem of the town. Now, talking about the trees, as Mr. Azam knows, in 1937, the year of my birth, 87 years ago, 30 trees were planted there. So close to 100 years, well, 87 years. Now, with a little research, at the time, you had a tree warden, and he was also the pest control director, superintendent, and his name was Matthew Andriano. This man loved his trees. And he would appear in front of the selectmen in the 30s, during the Depression, and in the 40s, during the Second World War, and said, we have a problem in the town park. And that problem is that all these trees were getting diseased. And they were getting diseased by the elm leaf beetle and the brown tail moth and the gypsy moth. And please help me. I need to spray. And they were using DDT at the time. And they cut his budget every year. All the research I did, they cut that man's budget. And of course, as I said, it was the Second World War. It was the Depression. Well, that was 1937, and nothing was done. The Parks Department came, and around the town park and the surrounding area, they removed 90 dead trees. And in the next year, 1938, it all spread to Draper Park. Well, that's the story on the trees. I am very grateful that Charles Renault is working with the park director and what trees should go into the town park, because he certainly did a beautiful job in Draper Park, those trees. I also want to say that where I live at 3 West Walnut Street, I've been there 50 years. And I must have old like that on what I have seen transpire in those 50 years. With my 5 sons, it's been a wonderful, wonderful place to see so many citizens and non-citizens in this town enjoy the town park. And I want to thank Mr. Asam and the commissioners for all the work they've done, because he's been a huge improvement. That's about all I have to say. So thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Linda Heller, 103 Congress Street. I also would like to see the basketball court remain. And I am very concerned about the pathway that's going to cut across the only remaining grass in the park. I don't think there's a need for a pathway going across the area near the softball field. And if we left the basketball court there, all of the surrounding area would be grass as it is now. And I think that would be preferable to the proposed plan. I also have to mention that the money that's being used for this, the grant, was because this census district has a predominance of low and moderate income individuals. And supposedly the purpose of redoing the park was to improve the lives of these individuals. And I am really wondering if all of our Guatemalan and Honduran recent residents play pickleball. I kind of doubt it. So I'm wondering what is here for low and moderate income people, except for basketball courts, that a young man with a ball can go to a basketball court and shoot baskets by himself. We can have pickup games, and especially among young men, friendships and connections can be made. I would really like to see that basketball court remain along Walnut Street.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else on the board want any comments, any final comments on this one? I mean, I guess that's sort of where we sit on it. I think you heard where people are, and you know, what we would like to see, or what we think may be improvements. I mean, I certainly applaud everything that's on there. I think it's certainly time in terms of improving those. As I said, I probably grew up there. I played tennis there probably, I don't know how many days of my life that I used to go up to those tennis courts and play.
On those same courts.
Yeah, and the same courts that were there, so I know the ones that were on the upper section, not the double courts, were in bad shape in 1973, so I hate to say what they were like now, so certainly, and I do understand the ones at the high school, so to me, I think that there's an appropriate usage. I also know that is not a sport that's played that much anymore. Those courts used to be full all the time. They certainly aren't anymore, but the basketball courts, I think, do offer an opportunity.
And that's what we're trying to bring back in, too. We a lot of people use them, so.
Yeah. Well, I think you have a problem because you have a shifting demographic. Two, you have a shifting as to what they use or not use. I mean, truth be told, you're probably having a tough time keeping softball and baseball in usage the way things are now in terms of how many kids are playing compared to what they used to be.
Those fields are full.
Those fields are pretty used.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the high school uses both. So the high school uses the baseball field for JV.
JV, yeah.
We've also used the outfield of the baseball for Stacy Soccer. That's what we've done in the past since they started that. And then the track and field for Stacy also uses the whole facility. But the youth softball use that for their tournaments and for weekly games. So those fields actually get used a lot more than people think. But it is well used.
And I appreciate the fact that you applaud the improvement. I do think we respectfully disagree about the existing basketball court. I think if you look at the project, people are looking at, we're losing a basketball court. You're not.
No.
You're gaining a basketball court. You're going to have two. And so you're gaining a basketball court and you're gaining passive recreation space that you didn't have before. Which I think is a plus for the town. I think it's a plus for the school. We've talked to some of the teachers within Memorial that were happy to see this passive recreation space, that they could take their kids out to that space, maybe have an outdoor class, maybe have an outdoor reading class. So, I don't want to get into the changing of the demographics and what we're doing for one culture and not another culture. I'm not going to touch that, right? I'm not going to touch that. I'm assuming that all different cultures play all different sports. As far as the courts being used 12 months a year, there's no reason why that they can't be used 12 months a year in the future. As far as kids being able to go on those two future courts like they do the existing court now, that's not going to change. If there are kids playing on those existing courts now, God bless them, and I hope they continue to do that on those future courts. But if those kids are coming for a pickup game today down at those courts, and there are permits for leagues on that court, then those kids don't have any place to go. In the future, they'll have a permitted game on one of those courts, and there'll be another open court for those kids to have pickup games, which they wouldn't have that opportunity to do now. So I do appreciate the fact that, people do have their opinions here, and we've taken them serious from day one. But in the end, we also do have to make a decision too. I know that a lot of the people in here were passionate about not having the parking lot, and I think it was in the best interest of the town to go with option 2 and not have a parking lot there. So that's just my opinion. But
Yeah, you're gonna be, and again, it's a preliminary site plan review, it's not, not
Understood.
final and
But I just
whatever,
want-
right? And I guess.
I just want to let you know where I stand.
Yep.
That's all.
Yeah,
And then one thing that's getting lost, and I want to make mention of it anyways, is the bandstand. So at this time, we use the bandstand not only for the band concerts for the 8 weeks through the summer, we use it for school activities. They go there for Memorial Day, they go there for different events that they hold up there for Memorial. But what we're doing there is basically just expanding the stage space and expanding that roof out. So there's no change to the main structure of it, but we're adding a little more roof, but the bigger part is the stage area. If you've ever been up there during when the orchestra's there, it's pretty crammed. And speaking to Paul Serapine, he thought it was a great idea. He thought it would help them. Unfortunately, this year, the band concerts will be moved to Plains Park because this construction will be going on through August. We're hoping that if it's done by August, maybe we can have the last band concert there, which would be nice. But during COVID, we used the bandstand. We used the pavilion down at Plains for more spacing, and it actually worked pretty well, and everyone adjusted to it. So, just so anyone that may be listening, asking, wondering about the band concerts, they're going to be down at Plains this year. So.
all right.
Joe?
Yep.
You brought up, Mrs. Heller, about the extra walking path that it's going up there, why is that necessary? I don't,
Can I just say something? I think we're all overlooking something here that's pretty obvious that only anyone sees. We have made a walking path. We have made an actual circle. Everything's connected now. You know, walking is obviously very big. Look at our bike trail. This gives you another option, another place to walk. You know, if you want to do laps or even jog if you wanted to. I think it adds that much more to the park.
I think Babe's comment was probably more in line with why is there one there? I mean, certainly if you had one going, you know, along Walnut Street and then back down in just that triangle as opposed to having to have one cutting through the middle, not to put words in your mouth,
Yes,
Babe,
no,
but
it's-
I obviously I don't think anyone's saying we don't want paths through here. I think the question was, you know, if we're talking about open space and stuff, why do we need that path in particular? Does it serve an overriding purpose?
Excuse my back. So instead of here, Mr. Calagione, Jonay,
I'll take anything. Believe me, everybody's called me
coming
anything.
this
on
way,
that.
you mean come around
Yeah,
this way?
yeah. I guess to me, one of two things, but that's the area.
I'm just trying to
Yeah,
understand what you're
yeah,
talking about.
yes.
Rather than have it cut through, keep this open space, maybe have it come around this way.
Yeah, I think that's what Babe was
So-
leading to.
So the one thing, and Scott, you
The
can
other
talk
side
to
of the
this if you
basketball
want,
court.
but there are manhole covers, right, manhole covers here from the new drainage. There's 3 of them here, there's one in the middle here. So I think going over this way, we're gonna run into those covers.
So someday I would like to see a sidewalk down that side of the street. That would be ideal. And that's always been a plan that we've never gotten to. So you probably will see that eventually, the full sidewalk.
but that would.
Well, I guess if you're doing that, then do we really need those? Why wouldn't you do that as opposed to what you're doing here? Put the sidewalk in now and use that as your walking path. If we're going to talk about it being a walking path and stuff, I would assume that, and again, I don't believe this is an area where people need to go and walk. The town has multiple other areas. So to me, I would rather see Town Park used as more of an active area with you know, courts and things like that. But that's me. And again, that's your decision at the end of the day.
You might have people in that area that can't get to those other paths, and this is nice and convenient for them.
I understand, but
There's
But
you got paths actually going nowhere and taking away a nice green, it is a beautiful green area there.
But we're adding green though, also.
I understand you're adding, but you're taking away, you're putting in impervious material, now we're trying to eliminate it.
I
so-
think it was more with the flow, and that's why we had talked about sort of, you know, going along like Liz is doing there,
Right.
coming that way along the back side of the fence, so it's not right in the middle.
But
So
I
it
understand,
does-
you don't need it.
What's the, I guess, I think what Babe, why would somebody want to walk along that way? I'm trying to picture if somebody's using the facility.
I've done it plenty of times where I've parked over here or
So-
I've parked.
When people come to the band concerts or whatever events are up here, they use this bus loop
Yeah.
for parking, okay? They use this side of the street for parking. So when people are here and they go to leave, they aren't walking down here and going this way.
Exactly.
They're going straight across this. And at one point, you can actually see where they all walk because there's a worn down area going right there, completely down that pathway. So we were just adding the walkways to allow people to get to any part of the park through a walkway. Will they still cut through the grass? Yes, of course. But it gives that option that if they want to stay on the walkway. And I think this going here, this almost turning, and this coming this way.
Staying
will
along
be more
the
contour
fence.
with the back of the fence there. And that's what Mike and I, and unfortunately, he wasn't able to, you know, get that prior to this meeting, but that's more of what you'll be seeing.
Well, I guess at the end of the day, you know, and again, it is your decisions as to what you want to go forward with. You know, I think there have been, you know, a number of people that have said they'd rather see a basketball court. There's a number of people that have said the walkway, you know, whether it's needed or not. So those are something that you guys need to pull together, figure out what you want to do, and finalize the plan. I'm not going to tell you, you know, you have to have the basketball court, because that's your choice at the end of the day. This board is giving you, and the people that are here as townspeople are giving you their opinions at that point in time.
I'd be more favorable without the walkway, that's my opinion. It's not something I looked at until it was brought up tonight, and I thought, I think it's a great idea.
I mean, certainly, I think, and again, it's to all of your, to take a look at it, make sure you're all convinced of it, and then go forward what you guys think is best. Because at the end of the day, it certainly is going to be your call. But for whatever the input is worth.
I appreciate the input. We got it all at town meeting, too, so, I think this one article was about an hour and 20 minutes long for that town meeting, so, yeah, we did have some good discussion there, too.
Mike, I got one last question is, I guess, next steps and timeline.
Yeah, so we're hoping to get back to you by the 19th of April. It may be close knit, but I'll work with Larry to figure out when we can get that final plan done.
Is that more of a site plan or still?
That would be the final.
That would be the
site.
official site plan.
Yeah, the official site plan, and then once that goes through, if you guys are fine with it, no adjustments being made, we were talking about May for everything going out to bid, and then, probably 3 weeks after that, a couple weeks after that, starting the construction, once we have a contractor. So, the final, right now, originally we were saying, June, July, but we're looking more like August, early September before it's completed. That's weather permitting, everything going right, everything being, but this is a little different than the pool project. So the pool project seems like it's been going on forever. It's been 3 years, but, since the construction started, they haven't left that site. And, but there's a lot bigger things going on down there compared to courts and walkways and lighting, electrical. That's a lot easier stuff. That's a 2.5 to 3 month process if everything's going right, as opposed to a 9-month project, so.
Sounds good, thank you.
Yeah, make sure you work, I'm sure it's the same thing with the next one with Larry, because
Yes.
that April 16th meeting is going to be.
He had said that, yeah. So I don't know if you'd be willing to do a special one.
We can do a special one if we have to. For this project and for your things, we'll do whatever we have to do, but that,
Yeah, so I'll speak to him about that.
yeah.
Sounds great.
All right. With that, we can go to Pearl Street.
That's right, whole nother one.
You got the drawing, can you put the drawing up, Liz?
I think I should be able to.
Might make it easier. Yeah.
So just a summary overall of Pearl Street and River Street on Fort here. So existing, obviously right down the street, there's 2 existing courts here currently. From what I think, there's a pretty big step up on this side. What we're looking to do is keep one of the courts, add a overflow parking spaces here. We're probably looking to be, depending on the parking space count, but it might be 1 or 2 ADA accessible spaces in this lot. And on this side, we're going to have a little artistic mural wall with a lot of park benches, more like an artistic gathering. This whole area, I think it was brought up again, this whole area is going to be pavement or pavers. One of the other, I think, questions that came up was lighting. I believe, so obviously there's no lighting right now. There's a couple of utility poles here. We might do a light or 2 on there, but as far as I know for right now, we didn't plan on lighting the basketball courts. And probably on this access here, since we're going to have ADA access on Pearl Street side, we're probably looking at not having this stairway come up just because of the grade change on it. So generally, that's kind of the overview of the project here. And again, we'll take your questions.
Babe? We'll go in the same order.
Okay. One of my concerns is, and I talked to Jimmy about it, is when the Edwards family donated this property, I thought it was for park purposes and sports purposes. And I just hate to see start putting in parking lot and then it not being right. So I think somebody should look into it, of what was written up when they,
Yeah, I would think that would be check with,
I think it was because of I think it was because when we had East there, the schools, that's what it was proposed at, but I can find that out. But I,
proposed there to put the two basketball courts in.
right, for the schools.
No, they were just for the
Because
town.
at that time, the youth center wasn't there, right?
Right.
Yes.
It's for the town. I mean,
Right, because I know going to school there, we used that, we used
Well,
that
they
for
did.
gym and everything
yeah,
else.
that's what I was thinking.
the Edwards families donated it, the National Guard went in and actually built it, did everything but the paving on the land. They tore everything up,
Right.
rated it.
And it'd still be recreation.
Well, parking lot is not recreation.
Well, the basketball court is, right?
I know.
Yeah,
And then
so,
when the
yeah.
two basketball courts were there, again, they were both being used all the time.
Right.
I don't know why, for maintenance purpose or something, the other basketball court was taken out, but
So one of the reasons why we came up with just the one basketball court was when I was approached by Rick Villani, and he had mentioned when we were originally writing the grant, Mitch and I were working on this grant, which, you know, Mitch did a lot more than I did for that. But when we were working together, we did incorporate and speak to Rick about things that they would like to see there. And they did mention an overflow parking lot for the town hall, but also for the youth center. So when we presented it to them, the select board, for funding, they get that ARPA funds, that was how we had presented it, and that was one of the things that sort of stood out for them, that, oh, that would be great to have parking there for the youth center. You know, right now, and I didn't take any pictures of it, but you go by any time during the week, and especially starting now with the spring sports, and people using the youth center, or any busy day at the town hall, that parking lot has at least 12 to 15 cars in it.
The basketball court.
The basketball court has, you know, 12, and the majority of them park on this side of it. They don't go so far over there, but, you know, I just thought where it's being used as that now, and it hasn't been basketball for a while, that, you know, that was one of the things that was brought up at the select board meeting when we were going for these funds, and, you know, that's what we came up with, so that's sort of the history of why it became a parking lot from a basketball court.
I'll follow up with legal on, to make sure that it's not in opposition to part of it being granted, because that's where, when they donated the land, it would be, for instance, town hall land was donated, and there's very specific things that are allowed and not allowed.
Yeah, and Draper's the same way.
Yeah, so,
For the most part, I think most of the things that are donated throughout, and only speaking of, like, you know, the pavilion that was donated by the Lions Club, you know, once, from what I understand it through council, is once it's donated, it becomes town property, and it's, you know, for you know, the town to do what they want with it, you know.
it depends, not if it's, not
If it's not written, no, if it's not
if
written
it's
that
ne-
way.
Right, and if it's deeded,
that's what I'm saying. I just,
Yeah.
Yeah,
just
just make
checking.
sure.
that's what I'm saying, I want to look
Yeah, if
into
there's a
the,
deed restriction, it'll be on the deed.
right.
As it was for Draper, yeah. Yeah.
Anything else, Babe?
No,
Joe?
Well, the elimination of one more basketball court has me in favor of leaving the one up in Town Park.
So we're going total 3-3.
I went by there on the way down. There's 5 kids playing on there. Went over by the memorial. It's in good shape. Why tear it out? I'd leave it. That's just my opinion. I have no comments here.
Chris?
I'm sorry, did you say you're going to remove the stairways coming across up from the Winter Street side?
Preliminary. just
Preliminary.
In terms of the grade change, since we have ADA access coming from Pearl Street.
Yeah.
You know, and to get a ramp up there would be kind of.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. That's why those are kind of steep stairs,
You're not
and then
gonna
where the
do
fence is and access, that's why there
You're
was.
probably better off eliminating it, because you'll be able to do a continuous fence along that edge.
And I don't, I mean, really, the only time that those stairs were used was when it was the
School was
school, so.
Yeah, or overflow parking from the church. Yeah.
And the fence will prevent the
Yeah.
balls from
Oh,
rolling
right.
down towards Marcone's.
Yep.
Like they, for years, going down, chasing the ball
Yeah,
down.
so that, I guess, right now, the preliminary plan is for no lights
Is that more because of budgetary
Yeah,
constraints?
we haven't figured it, we didn't have, when we first originally did this, we didn't have the funding from the ARPA funds.
Yeah.
So it's all going to be, that would be an addition if it's able to be done.
So
with
there's
the-
potential
with the money.
there.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
the money budget.
Yeah.
Conduit.
If they're
Yeah, run the
gonna
conduit.
do it, and you're gonna, could you at least put the conduit in?
Yes.
From the poles to around to a number of site spots along the basketball court. If you're gonna do it, at least put the conduit in so
So we don't have to dig it again if we decide to do it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, that leads to, are we planning on removing all the current pavement and
Yeah,
starting?
that pavement will come up. I'm thinking that the ground's going to be pretty good under there.
Right.
But
But we are removing that
They've
pavement.
done tests on it.
I put good gravel.
They'll all come back, right, but they did do tests on it.
Yeah, and then any consideration on drainage, stormwater management?
Yeah, so I mean, it's an existing paved area, so it doesn't require, under stormwater management, it doesn't require us to make drainage accommodations.
Right now, this is the only drain there, right there.
Right.
There's no other drains up here, that's the only one.
So however, I'm personally a fan of trying to incorporate drainage treatment wherever we are doing, even if it is redevelopment, anywhere we're doing work on town property, because we are going to be spending lots of money adding stormwater treatment in places all over town. So certainly any time that we can try to incorporate some treatment in, it helps towards our very lofty goal of
So we want to decide this in August, or
hundreds of.
want to wait till we're just getting ready to pave? No. I'm kidding.
That's why I bring it up.
No, he was, because we literally went out to Pheno Pool and were like, stop saw cutting because we want to put an underground infiltration basin here. So,
Well, with that, right, if we're removing all the pavement, it gives us access to start looking at stormwater. If we're removing all the pavement, it gives us access to put conduit in for lighting. So I'm just bringing it up as points of interest, points of conversation, and
Yeah, I think it's something that's-
as we develop the site plan, if it can incorporate that, and it doesn't affect the budget in a major way, too, because obviously,
Yeah,
at the end of the day, we want our courts, we want our picnic tables, but we're constrained by the number of dollars we can spend, and we can't go $1 over.
Thing is, when we were doing, when they came before us with the Woodward project for the school, Joe was the one who brought it up to put the conduit in. They said, no, we're not going to have lights. Well, sure enough, what do you got there? There's lights. And then putting the conduit in is fairly inexpensive.
Yeah.
Putting underground drainage in there would be super expensive.
And that's,
they
right.
kill the project.
Even if we, what I was going to say is we can definitely talk to our consultants about, whether or not this would even make sense as a place to put it. Because that is a area that's up high comparatively to everything else. So water doesn't go uphill most of the time. So it might not even be an area that would be well suited for an underground drainage system. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't take an opportunity to try and put in, some grass swales or whatever, something to just do a little bit, those little rain gardens up at Town Park. They don't take up a lot of space. I know they're probably more maintenance than.
No, it's actually light maintenance, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Excellent. So anyway, doing something like that is tree box filters, just something.
Thank you.
So,
Every little bit.
not to interrupt and get off the subject, but just so you guys know, it's not on the plan, So there's been discussion about that crosswalk that comes from the youth center over to the park there. It's been a problem for a while now. I think, Scott can speak to it too, as the highway surveyor. There's been safety concerns. There's been kids actually hit in front of this recently. So I think part of the plan, we would like to do some sort of something safety related there while we're doing all this digging up and the electrical and whatnot, to whether it be a flashing sign or whatever it may be. I think Scott's had some conversations. I spoke to Liz about it from different options that we could do. So that's something that we're going to also try to address at the same time again, and find the money to take care of it, because I think it's important that that gets taken care of at the same time as all this is being done.
Yeah, that would have to be through the selectmen, and
Right.
that's not part of this board's.
Right. I just want to let you guys know that we're considering it.
I guess my only, I sort of, in this particular case, certainly if it's not deed restricted, I like the idea of the parking. I would actually, in this particular location, I'd rather see maximization of the parking. I guess I'm not sure how much of that end area is going to be used per se, whether it's picnic area or what, in that particular location. I'd rather see 4 more parking spots. That's me. The basketball court, I think, is a great idea at that location. And making it, that basketball court and that side was never really a real good one. It was never that level. The fact that it'll be fenced in and stuff, because, I remember kids running down Main Street trying to find the ball. So that will definitely improve that situation.
Made them shoot better.
Yeah, well, the fact that there was usually no nets on made you shoot better, because you didn't want to go shacking the ball if you didn't put it in. I remember those days too. I mean, in terms of the other access, I wouldn't even try. I don't think there's any need to have an access from the Winter Street side. And I think it just causes more issues and cost in terms of having to put a gate there and an entranceway. The ramp would be extensive if it's doable, and I don't think it's worth the aggravation. So my only comment on this one was to try to get a few more parking spots if possible in there. That
I
would be
think
my
you
point.
get 8, 4 on each side.
Well, I think there's more extending, that's
just extend it.
probably, but yeah, I mean, I would look, knowing the premium for parking in this area.
Yep, I agree.
That would help, to me, that would help the town than having a picnic or sitting area in that location, because I don't think it's a necessarily big usage type thing. So that's my comment on it. But otherwise, again, I applaud this one in terms of being something that will definitely help the town moving forward. With that, I'll open it up to the audience. Mrs. Bontempo.
I'm sorry. How close, you have the rectory,
That's
and,
right.
and there's 3 priests. They're lucky to have 3 priests at that parish. And it's just so close.
So this is the existing wall.
Yeah, I think it's in the
There
same
is a
location.
wall.
So there's a
How-
fence and an existing wall right here.
How high is the
It's
wall?
the wall's only this high, but the fencing is 10 feet.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the noise. The bedrooms are upstairs.
Right.
And I don't care, the lights,
Well, at the end of the day, that's a significant distance. That driveway's pretty wide, plus that, and it's not a change in use. It's been a basketball court. It was a basketball court when I played there.
Yeah, I know, but it's
Different
not-
priests.
Thank God. The basketball court now, Joseph, it does not have the activity that it has on the basketball court on Walnut Street. Okay, I don't have central air conditioning in my home, so in the summertime, the good weather, my windows are up. And Jim knows the noise, 10, 11 o'clock, I mean, the basketball. No, when you hear that ball
Well, I-
hitting up against the backboard, and then that,
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's
I know that-
controllable here in terms of, and we talked about there, right now, there is no plan for lights. So, I mean, I don't think they're going to be there till, but even if there were lights, I mean, even at
No
Town
later
Park,
than
they
that.
go out, right, they go out at a certain time. I don't know what they were set for now, but they're always,
9:30.
shut off at a certain time. It was the same thing with the tennis courts. The lights would go off at a certain time. They're not ones that are controllable by the people just walking up and turning the switch on. They are,
well, my
all time is.
concern was for the priest and the rectory. I didn't know about, the fence and so forth. It's just the noise. The noise is constant. That's what I'm trying to say. The banging, the noise is constant. So if they stop at 9 o'clock, they stop at 9 o'clock, or like Jim says, he says 9:30, but we got a lousy time box there. I know. So it's more like 9:45, 10 minutes to 10, before,
But the street lights are so bright now, you can actually play with the street lights. You don't need,
Yeah,
you don't
okay.
need those lights.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry. My concern was for St. Mary's.
Mr. Wheelock?
You have an extra collection?
Put new windows in?
Oh, right over here for this.
I think they already do have that.
I'm not sure how much influence the board itself has on whether there will ultimately be lighting, but I hope that the planning board and the parks commissioners will prioritize modernizing Milford's facilities and recognizing that Milford in 2024 is not the Milford it was in 1951. It is not unreasonable to think that people should want to be playing basketball there till 9:45 at night, an incredible long amount of the year. I mean, in summertime, it's going to just be great after 7. But I still see kids on Walnut Street and that court when it's 100 degrees, so they don't even care at 12 in the afternoon if it's incredibly hot. They don't need to wait till 8 o'clock at night to basketball. There was a basketball player on there 2 weeks ago while there were flurries for the briefest moment. That court, in as low-quality shape as it is right now, is still very, very popular and should play a really important role in Milford's active recreation plan. I'm talking to the Parks Commissioners here, probably. The convenience store is slightly encroaching on that piece of town property, and I hope that boundary will be cleared up for the benefit of the park. The sloped piece of land should absolutely be terraced level with the basketball court, especially if nobody's talking about ramp access from Winter Street to the park. Just either elevate that whole sloped lawn area level with the basketball and parking, or actually lower the parking and basketball court 12 inches to reduce the amount of retaining wall on the Winter Street side. What we're talking about here is the next 60 or 70 years of Milford's future. We do not need to be doing the quickest flip-it, cheap renovation on a town facility so that we can save a few dollars today. We actually can think about the next 50, 60 years that we're all going to live with this stuff if you're alive that long. And really what we're witnessing here is a failure of Town Hall to address its over capacity for offices and its inadequate parking for the offices within Town Hall. Right now, the Parks Department and Milford residents are paying the price of Town Hall's inaction on expanding their own parking immediately adjacent to this site, which they've talked about for over 10 years in quiet, hushed tones. And so instead of doing something with the laundromat lot or the multi-housing on the backside of the street, instead they've actually taken away street parking on Court and Court Lane, and now they're pushing people to park over there. it's important to understand that the youth center has 26 parking spaces of its own that they don't use to full effect. Also, those parking lots, those parking spaces could be compacted for subcompact cars and other things. Instead, they're all just generic, large parking spaces. And employees at the youth center park in the parking space across the street from them so that they can look at their cars instead of allowing people to use that place. Both those courts were used very heavily as recently as 5 years ago when there was 4 nets there. And through strategic choices, it was decided to not have 2 full courts there, which was very useful for the kids who used it a lot. Mostly, it would be really useful for Town Hall to address its own parking problems instead of impacting the Parks Department. And the Parks Department is being a good sport in this particular instance, but just like the drop-off pickup loop that's affecting Town Park, this is again the Parks Department giving up an awful lot to benefit the school system in one situation and Town Hall in the other. So I hope that you guys will seriously consider prioritizing lighting for that court. Thank you.
Anyone else? So I think, I would assume this is under the same schedule as the other one. You'd be
that's
trying to
the
come back for
plan.
both? I think you heard the comments. I know you have, especially if you're trying to do this as ADA, you're going to have some issues with grading. I don't know what your survey stuff shows, but that obviously I think will control what you can or can't do in certain areas. So you'll have to get into that as you do it. Those are the comments. Anyways, I think in general, except for some few issues in both, I don't think there's anything major, and certainly nothing that would preclude you from moving forward and making sure that this gets done.
Good to hear.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And again, happy St. Joseph's Day.
Thank you, Joseph.
This is fun. Temple, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Amended site plan, 1 National Street. For those that aren't aware, this is the Amazon site down off of National Street.
Joe, that came in late.
Some of us had the pleasure of approving this.
Highway.
Yeah, it's still a parcel hub.
While you get set up, I'm going to read agency comments into the record. Applicant requests amended site plan approval to reconfigure the internal truck circulation for the Amazon parcel hub on the subject premises. The proposed modifications are located internal to the site off the easterly driveway from National Street. Changes make minor adjustments to the turning radiuses to improve security and better accommodate tractor trailers entering the site. An updated stormwater memo has also been provided that indicates an actual decrease in the amount of impervious surface and therefore a decrease in runoff. All applicable zoning requirements appear to be met. Therefore, I recommend site plan be approved subject to relevant department comments. That's from the town planner. I have a letter from the fire department. Fire department has reviewed the plan and has no recommendations for this project. Board of Health has no issues. Water Department sees no conflicts. And we have a letter from the Highway Department. We read the above-mentioned plan, find it to be satisfactory. So with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant.
My name is Chris Broyles. I'm from Moraine Associates on behalf of the applicant, gentleman. And you pretty much summed up the project. It's the Amazon facility, and the project is to provide a better access for the trucks coming into this facility off of National Street. They're reworking the entrance here. They're just changing the curb line a little bit, some additional concrete pads with their cameras to check the plates, some gates, and some landscaping. There's not much they're doing. It's mostly just for improvements for circulation. There's a reduction in impervious area. There's no change to the stormwater and or grading. And it's all within the existing site. Construction is proposed from curb towards the site, and not growing out away from the existing limits of facility as it is today. That's kind of it. I'll leave it open to questions.
Questions from the board?
No,
Anything, Jim?
Nope.
No questions, it's very clear what they're looking
Yeah,
to do.
too much.
Yeah.
Hearing no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the amended site plan.
No motion to approve the amended site plan?
Motion by Chris to approve the amended site plan, seconded by Joe.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous at 4. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a nice night.
Nice succinct presentation.
Thank you.
You get the gold star.
Thank you. Have a nice, good night.
Have a good night.
Anything, any new business for any members of the board, or old business, or any type of business?
Town article development? Where are we at on that, and where we'll see?
Pardon?
Those 3 town articles that we're looking at?
Well, actually, there are 4 or 5.
Okay.
We've got 4 or 5,
Oh, 4 or
because
5
some of them are going to be
now.
remanded to us, they weren't ours.
Right.
Oh, okay.
As well. So
right.
that's the
Just that.
meeting of the 17th, Larry, is that correct? 16th?
The next-
One of those days.
Second meeting in April, I believe.
Second meeting in April?
Yeah,
Okay.
the 16th. So they'll be first, they'll be short, so they'll schedule like 2 minutes apart and then do the continued public hearing from tonight.
Excellent.
Anything else?
Busy day.
Hearing that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Make a motion, we adjourn. Motion by Babe to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Joe. Any further discussion? Hearing not, all those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous at 4. Thank you and good night.